New maid sees a crowded ballroom. Music is loud. Laughter fills the air. A little girl stands alone by the tall window, her hands pressed flat on the glass, her shoulders pulled tight. People look and look away. She flaps her fingers near her ears because the sound hurts. A waiter almost bumps her tray into the girl and keeps walking. The girl bites her lip hard. Her name is Nora. No one says her name. No one asks if she is okay. I step out from behind the pillar with my house apron still tied crooked because I am new and a little scared. My heart knocks in my chest. I start to count my breaths the way my mom taught me. 1 in, 2 out. I stop in front of Nora and bend down so my eyes are level with hers. I do not touch her. I let her see my hands are calm. I say very soft, "Do you want to dance with me?" The music breaks for a beat. A few heads turn. A man in a silver suit whispers, "What is the maid doing?" A woman with pearls makes a face. I do not look at them. I keep my eyes on Nora. Her chin trembles. Her fingers open and close like small wings. I feel the whole room hold a breath, like we are all standing on the edge of something big. And that is when the elevator doors at the far end slide open with a ding and the CEO, her father, steps out and sees me holding out my hand to his daughter. "Before we go on, tell me, where are you watching from? Lagos, Houston, London, Accra, New York, Abuja? Drop your city in the comments. And if you feel this already, like and share so more people can see it." My name is Riley Brooks. I am 22, and this is my first day working at the Hartley estate in Boston. I came by train from a small town because the pay here could cover my mom's medicine and maybe fix our old car. I told myself to be brave, to learn fast, to keep my head down, and to not break expensive dishes. The house is huge like a museum, with a long staircase that curves like a ribbon and floors so shiny you can see your face. In the morning, the house manager, Mrs. Dalton, gave me a short talk while checking her clipboard. She walks quickly and expects you to keep up. She said, "No personal questions with guests, keep your voice low. The girl has her routines. If she is in the quiet room, do not disturb." I asked what the girl's name was and Mrs. Dalton blinked, surprised that I asked. "Nora," she said. "She likes soft music and soft lights. She does not like surprises. She is smart. She will show you what she needs if you watch closely." "Watch closely, Ms. Brooks. That is your job." I said okay and meant it. I wanted to do my job well. My hands were cold, but my heart felt warm. I like helping. It makes the day feel strong. The day moved like a fast river. People came in vans with flowers, plates, lights, screens, ice buckets, and signs. The chef shouted times and temperatures. The head server counted champagne flutes. I polished silver until my arms hurt. I learned the routes. From kitchen to ballroom, from ballroom to pantry, from pantry to back hall where the quiet room sits with a small star sticker on the door. I peeked once when the door was open and saw blankets, a bean bag, a little blue lamp, and a shelf of puzzles. No sounds, no crowd. It felt gentle in there, like a soft cloud in a loud sky. By late afternoon, the Hartley estate glittered. Mr. Nathan Hartley, the CEO, would meet investors and sign something big for his tech company. Everyone said words like quarterly, valuation, merger, pipeline. Those words floated above my head like balloons I could not reach. People wore bright smiles that did not touch their eyes. I kept to my path with my tray low and my mouth closed. The first time I saw Nora, she was sitting under the buffet table. One leg tucked, one leg straight, tracing the pattern on the carpet with her finger. Her hair was in a neat bob with a white clip on one side. She was humming. It was a tiny sound like a bee. A server bent down and said, "Sweetie, you can't be under there," and the sound stopped fast. Nora slid out and pressed her back to the tablecloth, eyes on the floor. The server rushed off without waiting to see if she was okay. My chest pinched. I wanted to help, but I did not know the rules yet. I told my feet to move and my eyes to learn. The string quartet started with a quick song and the room filled up. Shiny shoes, clicks of heels, cold laughter that fell like ice cubes in glasses. Mrs. Dalton gave me a nod to begin passing canapes. "Keep to the edges," she said. "Avoid the center unless the floor captain calls." I walked slow and steady like a boat that does not want to spill. People took food without looking at me. Some said thank you like they were throwing the word over their shoulder. I saw Nora again by pillar, hands over her ears. Her shoulders were small hills, her eyes were on a point far away. A waiter nearly brushed her shoulder with a tray and did not notice. Nora held still like a deer that thinks maybe it will turn invisible. I looked for her father. He was not there yet. A tall woman in a black dress saw Nora and turned, not toward her, but away, as if the girl were a mark on the mirror. It made something hot rise in me. I did not move toward Nora. Not yet. I watched, I counted breaths. I remembered what Mrs. Dalton said, "Watch closely." In the kitchen, the chef, Marco, had the radio on low. It played an old song my mom loves. It made me think of Saturdays when she cleaned the living room and I did homework at the table. Those mornings were slow and kind. I breathed that memory in. When I came back out, the lights had dimmed to a golden shade and the quartet had changed to a piano track from the speakers. There were more people now. It was almost time for the CEO to come down. I carried a tray of sparkling water to a group near the window. They took the drinks and kept talking like I was a moving table. That was fine, I am used to that. But behind them, pressed to the glass, was Nora. Her face was so close that her breath left tiny clouds. She was watching a leaf fall in the garden. The way her eyes followed it was like she was learning how to breathe by watching the leaf float. A man in a silver suit shifted and almost knocked into her. I gasped. He did not notice. He adjusted his tie and laughed at his own joke. I put my tray on a side table. My hands were empty now. Empty hands can help. I stepped toward Nora slow and from the side so I would not surprise her. I made sure my footsteps were quiet. I made sure my body was small. I bent a little so we were the same height. I kept a safe bubble between us. I let her see me first. She looked at me from the corner of her eye. I smiled with my mouth closed so my teeth would not flash bright. I pointed at the speaker where the soft piano was playing and then tapped my chest. I whispered, "I like this song, do you?" Her eyes flicked to the speaker and back to the window. Her fingers that had been fluttering started tapping the glass in time with the slow notes. I followed her rhythm on my leg with 2 fingers. Tap, tap, tap. I did not push, I did not reach out, I matched her beat. After a few moments I whispered, "Sometimes the music is too loud for me too." She looked at my lips to read the shape of my words and gave one tiny nod. I felt that tiny nod like sunlight on my face. Someone behind us cleared a throat. "Maid," a lady said, the word shaped sharp. "Don't distract the child." My shoulders flinched. I kept my eyes on Nora so my flinch would not make her think I would leave. I whispered, "I will stay right here with you if that is okay," and I lifted my hands a little, palms up like empty cups. Nora's chin moved, almost a nod, almost nothing, but I took it like a yes. We stood and listened. I kept my breathing slow so she could feel the quiet in me. The song changed. It was a simple melody like rain. I stepped back 1 pace and swayed in the smallest circle, not a big dance, just a whisper of one. Nora watched my feet. She tapped the glass again in the same slow beat. I said even softer, "Do you want to dance with me?" The words were plain but felt like a bridge I set between us, plank by plank. That is when the elevator dinged and Mr. Hartley stepped out. He saw his daughter by the window. He saw me swaying. The air snapped tight. A server whispered, "Oh no." The piano kept playing. We have to go back a little to understand the snap that hit the room. That morning before the rush, I was in the laundry room sorting napkins when an older woman came in with a basket. She had kind eyes and a name tag that said Joy Lynn, music consultant. "For Nora," she said when she saw my puzzled look. "Sometimes I help craft the sound path for her day." I asked what that meant. Joy told me in simple words. Her brain likes patterns and gentle steps. If we rush the steps, her day trips. So we build paths like soft morning, soft snack, soft music. I make a list with times, then everyone else forgets it and I have to remind them. She laughed, but it was sad. She said Nora is bright and funny and loves water and mirrors and old movie songs. She said Nora needs a person who sees her, not just the noise. "If you ever get the chance," Joy said, folding a towel, "follow her lead. It's the best dance you'll ever learn." I kept that sentence in my pocket like a small stone I could hold when I was nervous. Follow her lead. The elevator ding pulled us back to the ballroom. Mr. Hartley was handsome in a quiet way, not loud like the other men who laughed too big. He had tired eyes and a tie he had loosened like his throat hurt. People moved toward him like birds to a tall branch. He raised a hand and smiled, the kind of smile that makes other people smile back even if they do not know why. He waved off the microphone and said he would greet people after checking on something. Then he saw Nora. His smile changed. It became real and soft and a little scared. He started walking fast. The floor captain saw him coming and motioned the servers to clear the center. A swirl of movement opened a path right through the spot where Nora stood. People edged away not to help but to not be in the way of the important man. The small space around Nora became a circle of eyes. She felt it, I saw her feel it. Her fingers sped up, her breath came fast, her eyes darted, the music shifted key. A glass clinked too loud. She pressed her palms to her ears and bent her head. I stepped 1 breath closer, still not touching. "It's okay," I whispered. "I'm here." I looked at the speakers and then at the room tech who handled sound. I had seen Joy's list on the wall near the booth earlier. The next track was supposed to be gentle, not this one that had sharp notes. I caught the tech's eye and made a small lowering hand sign. He blinked, confused, and then, maybe by luck or maybe because he remembered Joy's list, he slid the volume down. The song softened like the sun going behind a cloud. Nora's shoulders dropped half an inch, then Mr. Hartley reached us. He stopped 3 feet away. Up close, he looked like a man who had been awake too long thinking about 10 things while wishing he could think about one. His voice was low. "Hi, baby," he said to Nora. "I'm here." He looked at me then, not angry, just alert. "And you are?" I swallowed and kept my own voice low. "Riley," I said, "I'm new. I'm sorry if I did not want to say the wrong thing. I did not want to make a rule mistake, but I also did not want to lie." She looked like she needed someone to match her rhythm. I was trying to make it easier. Mr. Hartley's eyes moved to Nora's hand, still tapping the window in the slow beat. His jaw softened. "Okay," he said, and the word held a lot. Relief, thanks, worry. He crouched to Nora's level and did not touch her either. He began to hum the same slow beat she tapped. It was a surprise. He was matching her too. My chest warmed. He said, "The garden lights are on, Nora. Do you want to see the fountain?" Nora turned her head a little, then a little more, and gave him one quick look. Then she looked at me. I smiled. She looked back at the leaf outside. I understood. The leaf had become a safe track for her eyes. Leaving that track was hard. I whispered, "We can bring the leaf with us in our steps, like leaf steps." I lifted my foot and showed a tiny, floaty step side to side like a leaf drifting. Mr. Hartley copied me. He looked silly and did not care. Nora watched our feet and then took one small leaf step away from the glass, then another. We started moving, slow as a lullaby. The room watched us. Some people smiled for real, others smirked like they were at a show. A man with a camera phone lifted it and then dropped it when he saw Mr. Hartley's face harden. The path to the garden was clear, but it felt long because we had to go at Nora's pace. I kept my hands low and my voice quiet. When a burst of laughter popped from the bar, Nora flinched and her feet stuck. I whispered leaf steps and floated one in place until the noise passed. She did one too. We moved again. At the door, the night air slid in cool and soft. The garden lights were gentle, not bright, and the fountain whispered. "Nora loves water," Joy had said. Nora's eyes lit like small stars. She hurried 3 steps, then stopped and turned like she was checking to see if she was allowed to be happy. That look broke something in me. I wanted to say, "You are always allowed to be happy." But I did not speak it. I wanted to prove it instead. By the fountain, Nora leaned in and watched the ripples. She touched the stone lip and then pulled her fingers back because it was cold. Then she reached again and let the cold sit on her skin. That small, brave act made me grin. Mr. Hartley stood a bit behind us, giving her space, holding his breath like a man who carries an invisible glass of hope and is scared to spill it. I heard the ballroom behind us buzz with chatter about numbers and plans. Out here, the world shrank to water, light, and our 3 steady breaths. Nora began to sway again, just a little. I swayed with her. Then she looked at me with a brave face that said, "I will try," and she whispered, almost not a sound, "Dance." It was her word, her choice, not my request. I nodded slow. "Dance," I whispered back. I took one leaf step. She took one too. We did not hold hands. We did not spin. We just floated side to side like the leaf she had watched on the other side of the glass. Mr. Hartley wiped his eye like maybe there was dust. The door opened and Mrs. Dalton slipped out. Her clipboard was tucked under her arm for once. She looked less stiff in the garden light. She watched us for a few seconds. "The board wants Mr. Hartley," she said, but her voice was not sharp. "In 2 minutes. He looked torn. He looked at Nora, then at the bright room, then back at us. He said 2 minutes and did not move. Mrs. Dalton nodded and went back in. We kept our leaf steps. A soft rain started, just a sprinkle, like the fountain was breathing out. Nora tilted her face up to catch a drop. She smiled. It was a small smile, but it felt huge. Inside, someone must have decided that the party needed a moment. The speakers cut the music and a new sound rose, the piano in the corner. I turned, surprised, and saw Joy Lynn sit down on the bench. She played the simple melody she had shown me on the folded list in the laundry room. It floated through the open doors like a promise. Nora stood taller. Her sway matched the new rhythm, easy and sure. I felt proud of her like I had known her all my life, even though I had only met her an hour ago. I glanced back toward the room and saw some faces soften. It is hard to keep your armor up when a soft song is playing and a little girl is brave. But the world is not all soft. A man in a crisp navy suit stepped into the doorway and frowned. He had the kind of frown that thinks it knows better. I had heard someone call him Mr. Pierce earlier. He was a big investor, the kind who likes to be the loudest voice. He looked at Nora and then at Mr. Hartley and shook his head. "Nathan," he called, not caring that his voice was too loud for the garden. "We need you now. The numbers slide is wrong." Looked at me and then at Nora, and the frown deepened. "This is not the time for this." He waved his hand like he was swatting a fly. The word "this" hung in the air like a bad smell. Mr. Hartley straightened. His voice stayed calm. 2 minutes, he said again. Mr. Pierce rolled his eyes. "You always make excuses for the—" He did not finish his sentence, but we all heard it. "For the child, for the problem, for the thing he did not understand." My hands curled into fists in my apron. I wanted to shout, "She is not a problem, she is a person," but I stayed with Nora. Leaf steps, warm eyes, calm breath follow her lead. Nora heard the loud tone and flinched. Her foot slipped on a wet bit of stone. She pinwheeled her arms, caught her balance, and then froze, breath stuck high in her chest. I matched her stillness. Then I breathed out slow, loud enough for her to hear the pattern. In through my nose, out through my mouth. She followed after 1 second, then 2. The stuck breath came down. She placed her foot again carefully and tapped the stone lip with a tiny, proud smile like I did it. I said, "You did." Mr. Hartley looked at Mr. Pierce. "You will wait," he said, a little steel now. Mr. Pierce bristled. "Investors do not wait," he said, "they leave." He turned like he might prove it. That was when Joy changed the song. She shifted to a tune that even Mr. Pierce knew, a gentle old movie song that makes people remember their first slow dance. His step faltered. He did not leave. He did not smile, but he did not leave. Music is a quiet kind of power. The rain stopped. The stone glowed. Nora leaned over the water and watched her own reflection ripple. Then she looked at me and did something new. She lifted one hand, palm up, very slow, like she was testing the air. She did not touch me, she just held her hand there between us halfway, like a question hanging on a string. My heart thumped. I did not rush. I lifted my hand halfway too, and then I waited until her eyes gave me that quick, brave look. I let my fingers touch hers, only the tips, as light as a feather. She smiled again. It landed brighter this time. We did 3 leaf steps with our fingertips barely kissing, like we were telling the air a secret. It felt like a miracle because it was her choice and her pace. I did not lead, I followed her lead. Another door opened. A woman I did not know stepped out of the shadows near the hedges. She had a thin coat and stood with her arms wrapped tight around herself. Her eyes were wet in a way that did not look like rain. She stared at Nora and then at Mr. Hartley and then at me. Something about the way she held her shoulders made my skin prickle. She looked like someone who wanted to be close but was scared to be seen. She took 1 step forward and stopped when a guard in black moved. She raised her hands like she meant no harm. "I'm not here to cause trouble," she said, voice shaking. "I just needed to see her from far." I said I would not. I tried to stay away, but I needed to see that she was okay. Mr. Hartley went still. Mr. Pierce leaned toward the door with greedy ears. Joy's hand stumbled on the keys and then found the melody again. My head spun. Who was this woman? Nora turned at the sound of the new voice. Her eyes moved over the woman's face like she was searching a puzzle. The woman pressed her lips together to stop a sob. "Please," she whispered to Mr. Hartley. "Just 5 minutes, I won't come near, She stopped talking because words were failing and because Nora took a small step toward her without letting go of my fingertips. Mr. Hartley lifted a hand, torn between 1,000 rules and 1 broken heart. He said the woman's name like it was heavy to lift. "Tessa," he said. The guard's radio crackled. Mr. Pierce's smile was cruel. "Who is that?" he asked, to no one and everyone at once, because he loved a scene more than a soul. Joy kept playing, but now the song trembled at the edges. I do not know every story in this house. I do not know all the old pain. I only know the way Nora's hand felt when she chose to hold my fingertips. I know the way Mr. Hartley looked like a man who had lost and found something in the same minute. I know the way the woman on the path held her body like a door she could not open. The rain had stopped, but the air was thick, like it was waiting for a drop that had not fallen yet. Mr. Hartley took 1 step, then another, toward the woman, then looked back at Nora, then at me, eyes asking for a promise. I nodded once. I would stay. I would protect the rhythm. I would keep the leaf steps safe. The woman lifted a shaking hand to her mouth. "She dances now," she whispered, like it hurt and healed to say. "She dances." A shout burst from the ballroom, sharp and wrong. "Security!" someone yelled. "The media is at the east gate." The guard at the door touched his earpiece. Mr. Pierce swore. The melody tilted. Nora's fingers tightened on mine. Mr. Hartley's phone lit up with a call from the board, the screen glowing like a warning. The woman on the path flinched at the word security, like it meant she would be erased. I felt all the pieces sliding at once: music, father, investor, guard, mother or not mother, child, maid, leaf steps. If one piece fell, the others might crash too. The guard took a step toward the woman. Mr. Hartley opened his mouth to speak. Nora looked at me, eyes wide, like, "Are we safe?" And then it happened fast. The wet stone where Nora had steadied herself earlier gave a tiny slick sigh under her shoe. Her foot slid again, but farther this time. Her body tilted toward the water. I moved without thinking, one arm ready to steady her, the other hand still holding the light touch she had chosen. Before I could catch her, a blur of motion cut in from the side. The woman in the thin coat leaped forward, faster than the guard, faster than me, her hand out, her eyes on Nora, not on herself, not on the rules, not on the people watching. Her fingers reached for Nora's shoulder, 1 breath away. And the piano stopped. The world moved too fast and too slow at the same time. Nora's shoe slid across the wet stone, her body tilting toward the fountain with her small arms flinging out like she was trying to catch the air itself. The edges of her dress brushed the glowing water and a cold splash jumped up like a warning. My heart kicked so hard it hurt. I tightened my hold on her fingertips, trying to keep the connection without grabbing too fast and scaring her. But before my hand could reach her shoulder, the woman in the thin coat, Tessa, lunged forward with a burst of speed that felt impossible for someone who had looked so fragile seconds earlier. Her breath came out in a sharp gasp as her fingers stretched toward Nora, her face full of fear, hope, and something deeper that I could not name yet. Her shoes slipped a little on the stone path, but she pushed past the slide, diving forward with every piece of her heart in her eyes. The piano inside the ballroom stopped exactly at that moment, as if the keys themselves were shocked. Every sound in the garden held still. The investors frozen at the doorway, Mr. Hartley frozen mid-step, the guard frozen with his hand reaching for his radio. Even the fountain seemed to pause in its fall. Only Nora moved, falling forward, and only Tessa moved, rushing to catch her. Mr. Hartley shouted, "Nora!" His voice cracked like something inside him broke. He took off toward us, but the wet stone slowed him. His expensive shoes slid just enough to steal a second from him, and in that stolen second, Tessa's hand landed gently against Nora's shoulder. Not a hard grab, not a force, just a soft, steadying touch. The moment her palm touched that little shoulder, something strange happened. Nora didn't scream, she didn't pull away, she didn't panic. She froze, not in fear, but the way a child freezes when they hear a familiar sound. Her fingers tightened on mine as if asking me silently, "Is this okay?" Tessa steadied her without squeezing. Her hand trembled like she wanted to cry but wasn't allowed to. Her voice came out barely a whisper, "Easy, sweetheart, easy." Mr. Hartley reached us 2 breaths later and pulled Nora gently back from the fountain, one arm circling her without closing completely. He didn't drag her, he didn't shout. He just breathed her name like he wanted to breathe her into safety. "Nora, baby, you all right?" She blinked 3 times, once slow, twice fast, the way she always did when she was trying to make sense of too many things at once. Then she looked at me again, searching my face for the rhythm we had made together. I nodded once, showing her everything was okay, even though my legs felt like noodles. She then shifted her gaze to Tessa. That stare lasted too long for comfort. Long enough for a child's memory to tug at something buried, long enough for a secret to tremble in the air. Mr. Hartley turned to the woman, his voice stern but shaking. "Tessa, what are you doing here?" She swallowed hard, her eyes sticking to Nora like she couldn't force herself to look away. Her voice cracked. I heard about the investor event. I knew she would be here. I told myself I wouldn't come. I really tried. But I had to see her. Just see her, not touch, not stay, just see." The guard stepped closer, hand tightening on his radio. "Sir, do you want—" "No," Mr. Hartley snapped without looking at him. "Stand down." The guard stepped back, but his eyes stayed sharp. Nora lifted her hand in front of her face, studying her own fingers like she was comparing the feel of my touch to the feeling of Tessa's fingers on her shoulder. She touched the exact spot where Tessa had steadied her. Then she whispered something so soft it barely made sound. "Warm." Tessa's hands flew to her mouth as tears spilled down her cheeks. She tried not to sob, but her shoulders shook. It was not a loud cry. It was the quiet cry of someone who had been holding too many broken pieces inside for too long. Mr. Hartley's jaw tightened hard like he was trapping a storm inside his body. "You can't just show up like this," he said, low and pained. "You know the rules." "I know," she whispered. "I know, and I'm sorry, but when I heard the music, the same song she used to dance to when she was little, She looked at Nora again. "I broke. I'm sorry." Nora leaned closer to me, hiding a bit behind my arm but still watching. Her eyes tracked the tremble in Tessa's hands. She didn't seem scared, just careful. Suddenly, voices burst from the ballroom. Someone shouted, "There's media outside. They're asking about the CEO's daughter. They have pictures." Mr. Pierce stormed back out furious. "Nathan, this is exactly what we warned about. Tonight was supposed to be controlled. And now the press is at the gate and we have strangers in the garden," and his words were cut off by a sharp glare from Mr. Hartley. "Not now," Mr. Pierce scoffed. "If this goes viral, your numbers will drop by morning. Investors don't want chaos." The word chaos made Nora flinch. I felt her fingers twitch against mine. She whispered to herself, too loud, and covered one ear. I moved my free hand slowly to shield her from the closest noise, keeping everything soft and slow. "It's okay," I whispered. "Leaf steps, leaf breaths." She inhaled shakily and followed my breathing. Mr. Hartley watched her carefully, worry pouring from his face like rain. Then he looked at Tessa, whose tears were still running silently. "You shouldn't have come," he said. "You know how hard it is on her when routines break." Tessa nodded hard. I know. Then she choked out, "But is she happy?" Mr. Hartley hesitated. That hesitation sliced through the air like a knife. Tessa grabbed her coat as if she'd been stabbed by that silence. "That's why I came," she whispered. "I just wanted to see if she smiles now." She wiped her face with her sleeve. "I'll go, I promise. I didn't mean to ruin anything." She turned to leave, but Nora suddenly stepped forward, tugging lightly on my arm. She whispered something that sounded like, "Don't go." My eyes widened. I looked at Mr. Hartley, unsure what to do. His face twisted with a dozen emotions colliding at once: fear, hope, confusion, pain. "Nora," he whispered. "Sweetheart, she can't." But Nora stepped again, tiny and brave, and touched the hem of Tessa's coat. Just the fabric, not her hand, not her skin, the smallest touch in the world, but it hit like thunder. Tessa gasped and pressed her own hand flat against her chest like her heart was bursting. "Nathan," she breathed. "She remembers." Mr. Hartley's voice cracked. "No, it's just the moment," but his words fell apart when Nora whispered, "She sang." Everyone froze, the guard froze, Mr. Pierce froze, I froze. "What did you say?" Mr. Hartley whispered, his voice so soft it barely existed. Nora pointed at Tessa's coat, then at her own ear, then hummed a shaky little note, a note that sounded like a lullaby a mother might sing. Tessa dropped to her knees, crying into her hands because the sound was too much, too familiar, too painful. "Nathan," she sobbed, "please." But before anything else could happen, 3 cameras flashed by the east gate. Bright, cold, white bursts of light scattered across the garden stone like lightning. "Sir," the guard shouted. Media got through the side opening. I need to. No, Mr. Hartley barked, grabbing Nora into his arms. Get them out, do not let them near her. Nora shrieked at the flash of a second camera. Her hands flew to her eyes. Her breath broke into fast gasps, each one climbing higher like a ladder she couldn't stop climbing. She shook her head hard the way she always did when the world got too sharp. No, 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 she cried. I moved fast, blocking one camera with my body, spreading my arms wide, trying to shield her from the lights. The reporter shouted questions. Nathan, who is the woman with the child? Is the child okay? Why did the board postpone your vote? Mr. Pierce screamed. Shut those cameras down, do something. Guards rushed in from the side, trying to push the reporters out. The garden twisted into noise, shadows, and chaos. The exact thing Nora couldn't handle. Tessa stood up, panicked. Let me help. She needs gentle light, she needs. You need to leave, Mr. Hartley yelled at her. This is why you can't be here. The words sliced Tessa open. She stumbled back, her face destroyed by pain. I didn't cause this, she cried. You know I did, but no one listened, not even the wind. Nora's breathing got faster, too fast, her hands shook. She curled into herself, knees bending. She whispered, fast repeating words, the same phrase over and over. It hurts, it hurts, it hurts. I knelt down in front of her, my hands low and open. Nora, listen to my voice, just my voice. Leaf breaths, remember, I breath slow, 1 beat, 2 beats. She tried to copy, but the flashes kept breaking her rhythm. Her breath caught in her throat like a stuck bird. I turned to the reporters and shouted, stop, you're hurting her, stop. But they wouldn't, they kept shouting her name. Mr. Hartley dropped to his knees beside us, cupping her shoulder with shaking hands. Nora, I've got you, baby, I'm right here. But Nora didn't hear him. She pulled at her hair, she rocked, her whole body stiffened in fear. I saw her slip into a meltdown, not a tantrum, not bad behavior, but a real, painful overload. I had learned enough from Joy to recognize the signs. She was drowning in sound and light. Then something happened I didn't expect. Tessa stepped between us and the flashing cameras, her back to us, arms spread wide like a human shield. She screamed at the reporters, stop flashing that light, she can't handle, but one reporter snapped another picture right in her face. She recoiled but didn't move from her position. She stayed like a wall in front of Nora. The guards finally shoved the reporters out, slamming the gate shut, but the damage was done. Nora had curled into a ball on the ground, her breath choking out in short bursts. It hurts, too loud, too bright, she whimpered. Mr. Hartley whispered to her, broken, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm here, I'm here. Then slowly Nora reached blindly toward me, her small hand trembled in the air. Searching, needing, I placed my hand gently into hers, her fingers closed tight, tighter than before, as if she was clinging to the last piece of safety she could find. I whispered, I'm here, you're safe, I promise. Tessa turned around, her face soaked with tears. Let me help her inside, she said. Just for tonight, please, I know how to calm her, I know the patterns, I know how to know, Mr. Hartley said sternly, even though his eyes were full of grief. You can't, not after everything. I didn't leave her, Tessa whispered. You know I didn't leave her, they took her from me. Mr. Hartley froze, completely still, like a man hit by an invisible bullet. Not now, he said sharply. Not in front of her? Tessa stepped back. Her chest rose and fell like she was drowning. Nathan, you know the truth, you know what happened, you know I never wanted. Mr. Hartley stood up, cutting her words with the force of his voice. You don't get to come back now, not like this, not after 3 years. Nora's eyes slowly lifted. Her breathing steadied a little. She looked at Tessa, really looked, and whispered one fragile word, Mama! Every single person in the garden froze. My heart dropped. Mr. Hartley went pale. Tessa collapsed to her knees, sobbing into her hands. She remembers, she cried. Nathan, she remembers. But before anyone could respond, a guard rushed in breathless. Sir, there's more press coming. They're demanding answers about Nora and about her. We need you inside now before this explodes. Mr. Hartley looked at me with panic, then at Nora, then at Tessa, then at the house filled with watching investors who would judge him either way. It was a moment where every choice led to a storm. And then the guard added something that made everything collapse. Sir, the board wants to speak to you immediately. They said if this scandal continues, you may lose your position as CEO. Mr. Hartley stared, first shocked, then wounded, then furious. Nora clung to his sleeve. Tessa reached out toward her. The guard stepped between them. Voices rose again. Investors swarmed the doorway. Press shouted from outside the gate. Cameras flashed at the windows, and Nora's fragile breathing began to quicken again. And right in the middle of it all, she whispered the same word again. Mama. This time louder, clearer, lost, confused, hurt. Everything broke at once. And then, Nora suddenly collapsed forward, her knees buckled, her body dropped. I lunged to catch her, but she fell limp before I could reach her, and the entire estate erupted into screams. Nora's body fell forward like her strings had been cut, her knees folding inward, her small hands slipping from mine as if the world had suddenly turned too heavy for her to hold. One moment she was whispering "Mama" with a trembling voice, and the next her eyes rolled upward, her lashes fluttering like trapped wings, and her whole frame collapsed into the cold garden stone. I lunged forward, my heart slamming against my ribs, my hands catching her head before it hit the ground. Her skin felt burning hot and icy cold at the same time, her breath stuttering in short bursts like a machine losing power. The garden lights blurred behind her little body as panic exploded around us. Mr. Hartley dropped to his knees with a sound so raw it barely sounded human, his hands shaking as he cupped her face. "Nora, baby, look at me. Look at me, please," he begged, brushing strands of her hair away from her forehead, but her eyes didn't respond. They stayed halfway open, flickering but empty, as if she was awake and unconscious at the same time. Her breaths came too fast, then too slow, then not at all for a terrifying half-second before she gasped sharply, her body jerking like she had been shocked from the inside. Tessa fell beside us, her hands trembling uncontrollably, tears pouring down her face in messy lines. "She's shutting down, Nathan, she's shutting down," she cried, her voice cracking with fear that came from a place too deep to hide. "This isn't just fainting, this is overload. Her brain can't handle the noise, the lights, the cameras, all those voices. Nathan, she needs calm, she needs the routine, she needs the quiet room, she needs. Don't tell me what she needs." He shouted back, not because he wanted to hurt her, but because terror had gripped his chest so tightly he couldn't breathe. He pulled Nora into his arms, rocking her gently even though she didn't move, didn't blink, didn't respond. Her body hung limp, yet her fingers twitched rhythmically, tapping an invisible pattern on his sleeve, a sign of a sensory overload shutdown merging with a fainting spell, something rare but deeply frightening. Investors crowded the doorway of the ballroom, whispering loudly, their voices cutting through the air like knives. "Is the child okay? Is that the mother? What is happening? Is this going to affect the merger?" Mr. Pierce's voice rose above them all, loud and furious. "Get her inside before the cameras get another shot of this. Do something before this ruins your entire presentation." He stood there in the garden doorway, hovering over us like a storm cloud, tapping his foot impatiently while a child lay helpless on the ground. My stomach burned with anger, but I focused on Nora's breathing. "She needs soft light," I whispered. "Soft light, slow breathing, and a steady pattern." I placed my hand gently on her chest, matching the rhythm of her breaths like Joy taught me. In and out, slow, slower, softer. Her breath twitched under my palm, uneven but following the pattern like a frightened bird trying to land on a branch. The guard rushed over with a flashlight, and before I could stop him, he turned it on full brightness directly at Nora's face. She jerked violently, her back arching in a silent scream, her mouth opening but no sound coming out. "Turn it off," I yelled, pushing the guard's hand away. "You're hurting her." "I was trying to help," he muttered defensively, but his eyes dropped when he saw Nora's trembling worsen. Tessa grabbed the guard's arm with desperate strength. "If you don't know how to help her," she choked out, "then don't touch anything, don't touch her, don't touch anything near her." The guard pulled away, shaken. Mr. Hartley brushed his daughter's cheeks, whispering her name over and over like a prayer. "Nora, stay with me, stay with Daddy, please, Daddy, here, I'm here, baby." His voice broke each time the words left his lips, as if his chest was tearing apart piece by piece. He looked at me suddenly, his eyes wild with fear. "Riley, what do I do? Please tell me what to do." That question hit me like a wave. A powerful CEO, a man who controlled entire companies, was looking at me for direction because right now I was the only person calm enough to see the steps clearly. "We need to get her into low light," I said, keeping my voice soft. "No noise, no shouting, no sudden movements, and someone needs to cover her ears until we're inside." Tessa moved instantly, cupping her hands gently around Nora's ears, not touching too tightly, not pressing, just creating a shield from the chaos. Joy came running from the ballroom, breathless, her music sheets falling from her hands. "Move her to the quiet room," she urged, dropping to her knees beside us. "Now, right now, her nervous system is shutting down too fast. She's stuck between fainting and sensory shock. If she stays out here, she'll spiral deeper." Mr. Hartley slid his arms under Nora's tiny body, lifting her gently as if she were made of glass. She didn't cling to him, her arms stayed limp. That scared him more than anything. "Nora," he whispered again, panic bleeding into every syllable. "Daddy's here, Daddy, here." Her fingers twitched once more, tapping a weak rhythm against his shirt, a sign that she was still there, still hearing the world through a thick fog. As he stood, Tessa stayed right beside him, hands cupped around Nora's ears while I walked on her other side, shielding her from the lights and the prying eyes of the investors. Joy hurried ahead of us, pushing people out of the way. Move, she ordered. If you speak, speak quietly. If you make noise, go outside, give her space. Her voice had no softness now, only fierce protection. Inside the ballroom, the music had stopped completely, leaving the room filled with an eerie, heavy silence broken only by gasps and whispers. Investors parted like waves as Mr. Hartley carried his daughter through the center of the room. Some of them looked worried, but many looked annoyed that the evening wasn't going according to the plan, annoyed that the CEO's family drama was happening in front of them. One woman muttered loudly, "This is why children shouldn't be at events like this." Another whispered, "This is damaging for the brand." I clenched my jaw so hard I tasted metal. Nora's head jerked once against her father's chest. Her breath hitched. She whispered something weak and jumbled, a sound between a sob and a scared hum. "Too bright, too loud, make it stop." "We're almost there," I whispered to her, though I didn't know if she could hear me. "Almost there, sweetheart, you're safe." Just as we reached the hallway leading to the quiet room, Mr. Pierce lunged forward, blocking our path. "Nathan, the board is on a live call," he insisted, grabbing his arm. "They need you now. This is spiraling out of control. That woman out there, whoever she is, she's already causing rumors. The media is..." "Move," Mr. Hartley said, his voice dead cold. "Not until you understand the gravity of this." Mr. Hartley's shoulders shook with rage. "If you don't move right now, I swear to God I will fire you before the sun rises." Pierce stepped back, stunned. But as we stepped past him, Nora convulsed once, just once, but enough to make her father freeze in terror. And then her eyes rolled, closed completely. Mr. Hartley froze in the hallway the moment Nora's eyes closed, his entire body going stiff as if someone had poured ice through his veins. He looked down at her face, pale and too still, and a sharp, broken sound escaped his throat, a sound that tore right through me because it didn't belong to a powerful man or a CEO or someone who led hundreds of people. It belonged to a father who was terrified of losing the only thing that kept his world from collapsing. "Nora," he whispered, shaking her gently, his voice shaking even harder. "Nora, open your eyes. Daddy here, open your eyes for me." Her head fell against his shoulder, her lips parted for a slow, shallow breath that barely lifted her chest. The air in the hallway thickened like fog, heavy with fear and whispers and the quick footsteps of distant staff who didn't know whether to get help or stay away. Tessa pressed her palms to her own mouth, her shoulders trembling as tears streamed unchecked. "She's not breathing right," she choked out. "Nathan, she's not breathing right, please, please." Joy ran ahead and swung the quiet room door open, the small star decal glowing faintly in the dim hallway lights. "Bring her in now," she urged. "She needs calm darkness, she needs space. Bring her inside." Mr. Hartley hurried forward, holding Nora to his chest with desperate care, and as we stepped into the quiet room, the entire world softened. The lights were low. The walls were pale blue, a small lamp glowed like moonlight in the corner. There were pillows, beanbags, weighted blankets folded neatly on shelves. Everything in the room was soft, slow, gentle, exactly the opposite of the chaos outside. He laid her down on the padded mat in the center of the room, his hands trembling so badly that he kept adjusting her position even when she was already lying safely. Her eyelids fluttered once, then stilled again. "I'm calling an ambulance," he said, reaching for his phone with shaking fingers. "This isn't just sensory overload, this is something else. She fainted, she convulsed, she won't wake up, she..." "Wait," Joy said softly, placing a hand on his arm. "Let me check her first, please. I've worked with her for 3 years, I know how her shutdowns happen. This could be a freeze response layered on top of fainting. She may wake better in quiet than in flashing lights with strangers touching her. And if she does," he snapped, pain twisting each word. "If something is wrong inside her body, if she needs oxygen, if she..." His voice cracked again. Tessa knelt on the other side of Nora, brushing a trembling hand down the girl's arm without touching her skin. "Nathan, let Joy check," she whispered. "If Joy says call, but please let her have one moment of stillness." Joy gently placed 2 fingers on Nora's wrist, counting her pulse. I watched her face intently, praying it would show relief, not panic. After a moment that felt like a lifetime, she exhaled slowly. "Her pulse is fast but steady," she murmured. "Her breathing is shallow but consistent. She's halfway between fainting and a shutdown. Her brain is overloaded. She needs a few minutes without talking, without touching, without light." She looked at all of us firmly, everyone out except one person she trusts. My heart jumped, but before I could wonder who she meant, Mr. Hartley whispered, "Riley stays." The choice stunned everyone, even me, and Tessa flinched slightly, hurt flashing across her face before she swallowed it down. "She took Riley's hand," he whispered, his voice barely a breath. "She followed Riley's breathing, she matched Riley's steps, she looked at Riley when she was scared." His eyes turned toward me, filled with gratitude and fear and something softer, something trusting. "She needs you." I nodded slowly, my chest tightening because of the weight of the moment. Joy gestured to the door. "Everyone else wait outside, no noise, no lights." Mr. Hartley hesitated, like someone was asking him to walk away from his own heartbeat. Nathan, Joy said gently, you're too scared right now. She feels everything. Your fear will pull her deeper. Let Riley bring her back up. You can stand right outside the door. She will hear you breathing if she wakes up. That small promise seemed to steady him. He bent down, pressed a trembling kiss onto Nora's forehead, whispered, Daddy's right outside, my love, then pulled himself away with the kind of pain that could only come from love. Tessa stepped backward too, her hand lingering on the doorknob as if she didn't want to let go. She looked at me with red, swollen eyes. Please, please help her, she whispered, her voice breaking in half. I nodded gently, silently. Then the door closed, leaving only the dim room, the soft lamp, the little girl lying still, and me. I sat beside her, not touching her, just close enough for her to feel a presence without pressure. Her breath was shallow, uneven, like the rise and fall of a frightened animal hiding under leaves. I matched my breathing to the slowest, gentlest pattern I could make. In slow, out slower, I kept my eyes on her eyelids, watching for the faintest flicker, any sign that she felt the air moving differently. After a long, heavy silence, her fingers twitched lightly against the mat, tapping a pattern, unsteady, confused, but familiar. It was the same rhythm she tapped against the window earlier, the rhythm of the soft piano song. I whispered the melody very quietly, just breathy hums, not words. Her eyelids fluttered for half a second. I kept going. Soft hum, soft breath, soft rhythm, nothing sharp, nothing sudden, nothing loud. A minute passed, then 2, then 3. And then very softly her lips parted. Leaf, she whispered, the word so faint I almost missed it. Relief poured through me so fast tears stung my eyes. Yes, sweetheart, I whispered back. Leaf steps, leaf breaths, just like before. She inhaled shakily, her chest rising a little more, then falling gently. I hummed again, very slow. She followed with a slow exhale, tiny but real. Her fingers tapped the mat twice, then stilled again. She opened one eye halfway, blinking at the dim light. But before I could speak again, the quiet room door swung open violently and slammed against the wall. Mr. Pierce stood there, face red, chest heaving, panic and anger clashing in his eyes as he barked, Nathan, the board has, he froze. His eyes locked onto Nora, onto us, onto the fragile moment. And behind him, pushing past him, were 2 reporters holding small hidden cameras already recording. Nora's eyes opened wide in terror. And the tiny progress we'd made cracked like glass. The moment the door crashed open, the soft calm we had carefully built shattered like thin glass under a hammer. The dim, safe space exploded with sudden brightness and noise as the reporters pushed past Mr. Pierce, their small hidden cameras blinking red, their mouths already forming questions that sliced through the quiet like sharp knives. Nora's eyes flew open wide, her body tensing as if an electric shock had ripped through her. She curled instantly, arms folding over her head, knees pulling toward her chest, her breath shooting into fast, painful bursts. No, too loud, too bright, she whimpered, her voice cracking like a frightened bird caught in a trap. I moved without thinking, shielding her with my body, arms spread wide to block the lights, my voice low but fierce as I snapped. Turn those cameras off, you're hurting her, get out. But the reporters only leaned closer, ignoring my words, desperate for a headline. Is she unstable? One whispered. Is this the CEO's hidden scandal? Is the mother back? Is that why she fainted? Is the merger falling apart because of the child? Their cruel questions echoed off the soft walls like thunder, bouncing around the room and stabbing into Nora's fragile senses. Her hands flew to her ears, her fingers trembling violently as she dug her nails into her hair. Rocking back and forth in a tight, panicked rhythm, her breath turned into short gasps, each one sharp and painful. I touched her hand lightly to guide her breathing, but she flinched hard, curling deeper into herself like she wanted to disappear completely. Joy appeared at the door behind them, her face twisted in fury I had never seen before. Out, she bellowed, her voice booming so loudly that it stunned even the reporters. She grabbed one camera with both hands and slammed it to the floor, stomping on it until the screen cracked like ice. You don't get to come into her safe space, she shouted. You don't get to use her pain for your story. But Mr. Pierce, red-faced, sweating, shaking, yelled back, you can't destroy press property. Do you know how bad this already looks? Nathan needs to, he didn't finish, because Mr. Hartley himself burst into the room with Tessa right behind him, shoving Pierce so hard that he hit the wall. Get out, Mr. Hartley roared, his voice shaking the air. All of you out! He grabbed the nearest reporter by the collar of his jacket and shoved him toward the door with a force that came from pure panic and fury. If you ever point a camera at my daughter again, he growled, I swear. He didn't finish the sentence, but the threat hung heavy in the room, vibrating in the air like a warning siren. The guards rushed in then, dragging the reporters out by their arms, shoving Pierce out too when he tried to argue. The quiet room door slammed shut again, and this time Joy locked it from the inside and slid a heavy weighted cushion against the bottom to seal out light and noise. The room returned to dimness, but the damage had already been done. Nora's breath came too fast, too shallow, her chest rising and falling in frantic jerks. She curled tighter into herself, rocking harder now, her fingers clutching her hair like she was trying to pull the fear out of her body. Tears streamed down her cheeks silently, soaking into the mat beneath her. Mr. Hartley dropped to his knees beside her, reaching out with trembling hands but stopping just before touching her, his voice breaking. "Baby daddy, here," but she didn't respond. She didn't look at him, she didn't even seem to feel him. She was locked deep inside her own storm, trapped behind a wall of noise and terror that none of us could see. Tessa slid to the floor on Nora's other side, her face pale with anguish. "Nathan, she's spiraling, she's going into a full sensory crash," she whispered. "She hasn't done this since," she cut herself off, pain choking her words. Joy placed a hand on Mr. Hartley's shoulder. "She needs darkness," she said firmly. And a voice with a steady rhythm, no touching, no questions, no crying, just breath and sound. Mr. Hartley's throat tightened painfully. "I can't, my voice." His voice shook so hard he could barely speak. Joy nodded once and turned to me. "Riley," she said, "she followed your rhythm, you need to guide her back." My chest tightened with fear, not of failing, but of being trusted with something so fragile. But I nodded, pushing aside my trembling. I positioned myself near her head, close enough for her to hear my breaths but not so close that she felt trapped. I began to breathe slowly, deep inhale, soft exhale, over and over. I hummed the same melody from earlier, the gentle one, the slow one, the one she whispered leaf to. At first she didn't react. She kept rocking, her breathing sharp and painful. I hummed again, slower this time, and again, until the air itself felt like it was swaying with the sound. After a full minute her rocking slowed, just slightly, then her fingers loosened from her hair, trembling as they dropped to her chest. Her breath softened for a moment, then spiked again when someone knocked loudly on the door. Mr. Hartley sprang up like he'd been stabbed. "Who is it?" he snapped. A guard's voice responded through the door. "Sir, the board insists they must speak to you immediately. They said if you don't come out now, they will initiate removal proceedings." The words hit him like a slap. He staggered backward, bracing himself against the wall, his chest heaving. "Removal proceedings," he repeated, stunned. "They want to strip you of your position," the guard said quietly. "Tonight." Tessa's hands flew to her mouth in horror. Joy swore under her breath. "Tell them I'll come when my daughter is safe," he said. "Sir, they said if you don't come now, they will assume you are unfit to lead," the guard replied. "The press outside is already making assumptions about your daughter's instability and the woman who claimed to be her mother." The word claimed made Tessa flinch as if slapped. "They're building a story," the guard added. "A very, very ugly one." Mr. Hartley squeezed his eyes shut, his hands shaking, torn in two directions, his child on the floor fighting for breath and his position being ripped from him on the other side of the door. He looked at Nora, then at the door, then back at Nora again, his face crumpled. "She is my entire world," he whispered. "I won't leave her." "Nathan," Joy said gently, "you don't have to leave her, but you need to step 2 feet outside this door and speak for 1 minute. 1 minute, I'll stay with her. Riley will guide her breathing. Tessa will stay silent and still. You'll be right here. She won't be alone." He hesitated, every bone in his body resisting the idea of leaving her side, but the guard knocked again, more urgently. "Sir, they're moving forward without you." Mr. Hartley finally forced himself to stand, his breathing shallow, his eyes wet. He knelt beside Nora and kissed the air near her cheek. He didn't touch her skin, knowing it might overwhelm her. "Daddy is right outside," he whispered softly. "Right outside the door, 1 minute, just one." She didn't respond. She was still in her world, breathing too fast. But he closed his eyes, braced himself, and then stepped out of the room. The door clicked shut. 3 seconds passed. 4. 5. And then from the hall, we heard a voice we did not expect. A woman's voice. Cold, bitter, poisonous. "Well, well," she said, "look what a disaster this family has become." Tessa froze. Joy's eyes widened. My heart dropped. Because that voice was the voice of the woman who took Nara away from Tessa 3 years ago. The voice of the enemy neither of us knew was still alive. The door handle twisted. The quiet room began to open. And everything safe inside it, the dim light, the soft sounds, Nora's fragile breaths, was about to be ripped apart again. The handle turned slowly at first, as if whoever stood outside wanted to savor the fear spreading through the room like smoke. The soft dimness of the quiet space trembled under the threat of new noise as the metal clicked again, then pushed inward inch by inch. I rose halfway from the mat, instinct driving me to shield Nora's fragile body. Even though she was curled tightly on the floor, eyes squeezed shut, breath trembling in rapid, shallow gulps that made her shoulders shake. The door opened wider and the woman stepped inside with the kind of confidence that made my skin crawl. She wore a fitted beige suit, her hair in a perfectly twisted bun, her lips painted a crimson red that matched the cruel curve of her smirk. Her eyes cold, calculating, sharp enough to cut, swept across the room like she owned every inch of it. "Still falling apart, I see," she muttered with a low chuckle. Some things never change. Tessa's breath caught in her throat, her body going rigid, the color draining from her face entirely. She stood slowly as if rising from underwater, her fingers trembling at her sides. Vivian, she whispered, the name leaving her lips like poison. What are you doing here? Vivian stepped further in, her heels clicking softly on the padded floor despite the room's design. She looked at Nora with a feigned pity that barely masked the satisfaction glittering in her eyes. Just checking on the child I tried to protect years ago, she said smoothly. Looks like nothing's improved, still unstable, still shutting down, still a burden. My hands balled into fists so tight I felt my nails press into my palms. Joy stepped forward, blocking Vivian's path with a fierceness I didn't expect from her. Get out of this room, she said, her voice shaking with rage. This space is for Nora's safety. You are not allowed in here. Vivian smiled mockingly. Safety, is that what you call this? She gestured around with disdain. Sitting in the dark humming lullabies while a CEO abandons his investors to coddle a child who can't handle a camera flash. The cruelty in her tone made my blood burn. She's overwhelmed, not unstable, I snapped. She fainted because of sensory overload, because people like you keep treating her like a spectacle instead of a child. Vivian turned her gaze on me, her eyes narrowing slightly. She looked me up and down in slow scrutiny. And you are, Riley, I said through clenched teeth, someone who actually cares about her. Vivian snorted. You're a maid, she said flatly, and yet you presume to speak about things you clearly don't understand. She took another step inside and Nora flinched at the sound of her heels curling tighter, rocking again, her breath spiraling. Her small voice broke through in a trembling whisper. Too loud. Too loud, Vivian's lips twitched upward cruelly. Ah yes, she murmured, there it is. Tessa moved then, faster than I expected. She stepped in front of Nora with her arms spread, shielding her like a mother shielding a cub from a predator. Her voice trembled, but her stance did not. You don't get to talk about her, she said, each word shaking with pain and anger. You don't get to walk in here, you don't get to come near her, not after everything you did. Vivian laughed softly. Everything I did, she echoed. Everything you failed to do is more accurate. I kept her safe, I kept her fed, I kept her medicated, I followed the rules you couldn't follow, and in the end, Nathan agreed with me. Tessa's face twisted in disbelief and agony. You stole her, she whispered. You turned everything upside down, you lied, you made them think I was unstable, you made them take her from me. Vivian's expression hardened. I didn't have to lie, she said coolly. Your breakdown spoke for itself. Tessa staggered backward like she had been struck across the face. Joy stepped closer to her, steadying her with a hand on her back. I felt my chest tighten painfully at the sight. Vivian turned her cold gaze back to Nora. And now look at her, she said. 3 years later and she's still collapsing in dark rooms while her father loses his company again because of her. A low, dangerous sound came from Tessa's chest, a sound I had never heard before. Don't you dare, she hissed. Don't you say she's the reason, don't you put your cruelty on her. Vivian raised an eyebrow, unbothered. Truth hurts. I stepped forward then, positioning myself beside Tessa, my voice low but steady. Leave, I said, now, before you make this worse. Vivian smirked at me. Child, you have no idea how bad things already are. She leaned close, her voice dropping to an icy whisper. Nathan's losing everything tonight, and when he does, the board will take custody decisions into their own hands, and guess who they'll call first? She tapped her chest smugly. Me, Tessa gasped, her knees nearly buckling. No, 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 Vivian smiled cruelly. You can't stop it, he can't stop it, and she pointed at Nora, certainly can't stop it. But before I could speak, before Joy could shout, before Tessa could break entirely, Nora lifted her head. Just barely. Her eyes were half open, glazed, but she looked up. Directly at Vivian. And for the first time since collapsing, she spoke a word that made every single person in the room freeze. No. Just that one word. Small. Weak. But clear. Vivian's smirk faltered. Joy covered her mouth in shock. Tessa's eyes filled with tears. I held my breath. And Nora, shaking, terrified, barely conscious, forced out another breath. No, it's you. Vivian blinked. Then her face twisted with annoyance. But before she could respond, Nora tried to sit up. Her arms trembled violently, her breath wavering, but she pushed anyway. She looked like a baby deer learning to stand, fragile and wobbling but determined. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Go away." Vivian opened her mouth to mock her. But then, something else happened. Something no one expected. Nora's eyes rolled suddenly backward. Her body slumped sideways. And she stopped breathing. Completely. Nora's body went still in a way that froze the air itself, her small chest unmoving, her lips turning pale as her head fell sideways against the mat. For a single terrible second, no one breathed, no one moved, and no sound existed except the faint hum of the quiet room lamp. Then chaos exploded. Tessa screamed Nora's name as she dropped to her knees, her palms hovering above her daughter's body but never pressing, terrified of touching her too hard. Joy scrambled toward the emergency kit, her fingers shaking as she ripped it open. I leaned over Nora, my ear near her lips, desperate for even the softest whisper of air, anything, but there was nothing. "She's not breathing," I cried, my voice cracking in a way I had never heard before. Mr. Hartley burst into the room like the door had blown open behind him, his face drained of every color as he fell beside her, his hands trembling fiercely. "No, no, no, baby, breathe please," he begged. His entire body shook with panic that shattered every piece of strength he ever carried as a CEO, leaving only a terrified father on the floor. For one heartbeat we were all trapped in that nightmare until joy took control. "Riley, hold her head steady." Nathan talked to her slowly. "Tessa, keep the light dim. She can come back, she just needs help finding her way." I did exactly what she said, holding Nora's head soft as a feather. Tessa dimmed the lamp to a warm glow. Mr. Hartley leaned close, whispering his daughter's name through tears. And Joy pressed 2 fingers into the right pressure point below Nora's collarbone and breathed deeply, coaxing her back with a rhythm only someone who truly understood her could create. Seconds felt like hours until finally, gloriously, painfully, a tiny breath shuddered into Nora's body. Then another, then a weak cough. Her eyelids fluttered like she was swimming upward from a dark lake. And her father collapsed, sobbed as he gathered her gently against his chest, whispering, "Thank you, thank you, thank you," into her hair while Tessa wept silently beside them. Outside the quiet room, the board members shouted through the hallway. Guards argued with investors, reporters demanded answers, and Vivian screamed threats about legal custody. But none of that mattered anymore. Not when Nora opened her eyes fully and whispered one tiny word that silenced everything. "Daddy." The fear inside Mr. Hartley shattered instantly into raw relief as he pressed his forehead against hers, promising with a trembling voice that he would never let anything hurt her again. Vivian barged into the doorway, furious and desperate, yelling that Nathan was unfit, that Nora needed professional oversight, that the board would never allow a man who coddled a disabled child to run a multi-million-dollar corporation. But this time Mr. Hartley stood up, still holding Nora protectively, his eyes burning with the kind of resolve that turns storms away. "You're right," he said coldly. "I won't run a company that treats my daughter like a problem." Gasps rippled down the hall. Vivian smirked, thinking she had won. But then he continued, "So I resign, effective now, and every investor with a soul will follow me out of that room." Silence hit the hallway so hard it echoed. Board members panicked, investors whispered, Vivian stuttered in disbelief, and Nathan Hartley, who had sacrificed everything for everyone else, finally chose the only thing that ever mattered: his child's life, her safety, her happiness. "You never protected her," he told Vivian. "You controlled her. And she's not yours, she never was." Security escorted Vivian out as she screamed empty threats while Nora clung gently to her father's shirt, her breathing steadier by the second. Tessa collapsed into a chair, sobbing with relief, her hands covering her face as she whispered, "Thank you, God, thank you," and Joy exhaled deeply, placing a hand on my shoulder, her voice soft but full of pride. "You saved her," she said, "remember that." At night, when the mansion finally emptied of reporters, investors, and poisonous people, the 5 of us remained in the quiet room, Nora curled against her father's chest, Tessa sitting close by, her eyes locked on her daughter with a mix of longing and hope, Joy cleaning the broken pieces of the day, and me sitting beside them, still humming the leaf-soft melody that had guided Nora back to safety. Nathan looked at me with tear-stained eyes and whispered, "Riley, I owe you everything." But I shook my head gently. "You owe your daughter your peace," I whispered back, "not your company." He smiled, tired, broken, healing. "Then that's exactly what I'll give her." He turned to Tessa, the mother who had been ripped from her child by lies and cruelty, and said quietly, "Tomorrow we talk, truthfully, all of it." She nodded, tears falling again, but softer this time, hopeful tears. And as Nora drifted into a calm sleep for the first time that night, her tiny hand reached out blindly, first brushing her mother's arm, then finding my fingers and holding them both at once. It was the smallest gesture in the world, but it changed everything. Because in that moment, the girl who had been ignored, misunderstood, and mishandled by so many finally found what she needed most: safety, connection, truth, and love. And as the soft light glowed around us, the quiet room finally felt like what it was always meant to be, not a place to hide her pain, but a place where she could heal. Before I turned off the lamp, my voice whispered the final line of the lullaby she loved, and Nora breathed it back in her sleep. Her father rested his forehead on hers. Her mother held her small foot with shaking hands. Joy leaned against the wall, exhausted but relieved. And I sat on the mat beside them, feeling something warm settle into my chest, something like purpose, like a new beginning being born in that quiet blue room. Outside, the world would talk, judge, twist stories, and speculate, but none of that mattered anymore. Inside this small room, the only truth that mattered was simple and pure. Nora was safe, Nora was loved, and Nora was no longer alone. As the night deepened and peace finally settled over the house, Nathan looked at me and whispered what felt like the true ending of everything we had survived. "This family starts over tonight." If this story touched you, please subscribe to this channel to support our growth.